The world has entered a time of unprecedented darkness. The rise of a new global government has led to the implementation of a universal identification mark, without which no one can buy, sell, or even receive basic services like schooling. Christians who refuse the mark find themselves hunted and cut off from society. As chaos spreads, a group of 50 believers gathers in a remote hideout to seek refuge and pray for survival. The community, consisting of families, young children, and elderly people, is led by Samuel, a former businessman turned spiritual leader. Their camp is hidden in a dense forest, where they live in makeshift tents, and resources are growing scarce. The adults take turns keeping watch while the children are taught secretly. Hunger and fear loom as food supplies dwindle, and murmurs arise from those who doubt if faith alone will sustain them. Within the camp is an old woman named Mama Adwo, whose small garden plot has become a symbol of hope. Unlike the rest of the land, which remains parched and barren, Mama Adwo's garden mysteriously flourishes. She tends to her small patch with care, and each morning green shoots rise from the ground, and vegetables ripen, providing sustenance to the community. The people see it as a miracle, but even this blessing is not enough to silence the doubts. Among the camp is a young man named Michael, whose sister Leah is gravely ill. The weight of responsibility burdens him as he watches her suffer. He hears stories of people who took the mark, gaining access to food, medicine, and education. Desperation overtakes him, and Michael sneaks out one night, seeking out a city where the marked live freely. He takes the mark, believing it is the only way to save Leah. Upon returning to the camp in secret, he smuggles in medicine for Leah, but to his horror, she only grows worse. That night, soldiers storm the camp after tracking Michael's movements. The authorities capture Michael and several others, taking them away to a facility where those without the mark are imprisoned and reprogrammed. Despite the danger, Mrs. Addo, a former school teacher, continues to teach the children in the camp. Each day, she takes them into a concealed underground room where they learn by the light of oil lamps. The children study math, history, and Bible lessons using smuggled books. 9-year-old Emma and 10-year-old Joshua, both curious and full of questions, find themselves struggling with the constant temptation to join their former friends who have taken the mark and now live seemingly easier lives. Emma's best friend, Grace, who had taken the mark, tries to persuade her to join the system. Grace tells Emma about the new schools, filled with modern equipment, games, and luxuries. Emma feels torn. The allure of a normal life weighs heavily on her, but she recalls the miracle of Mama Adwo's garden and the lessons Mrs. Addo taught on enduring trials. In tears, Emma tells her parents, who encourage her to stay firm in faith and focus on the things that last forever. The tension escalates when a gang of bounty hunters infiltrates the camp at night. They kidnap several children, including Emma and Joshua, with plans to sell them to the authorities for a reward. The children are bound and transported in a locked van. Terrified, they pray silently, fearing for their lives. As the van speeds down a deserted highway, a sudden blinding light envelops the road ahead. The vehicle screeches to a halt, swerving uncontrollably. The captors, disoriented and blinded by the light, abandon the van and flee into the wilderness. When the light fades, the children are left alone in the van, unharmed. Joshua manages to kick open the door, and the children escape back into the forest, finding their way home. They are welcomed back to the camp with tears of joy and praise, as the community believes they have witnessed divine intervention. As the tribulation deepens, hunger becomes an even greater threat. The river near the camp has dried up, and attempts to grow food on the cracked earth have failed. Yet, Mama Adwo's garden continues to thrive. The vegetables seem to grow overnight, and flowers bloom despite the harsh conditions. She shares her harvest with everyone, though she insists she is merely a steward of God's blessing. One day, a few members of the camp decide to plant their own gardens, hoping to replicate Mama Adwo's success. But despite their best efforts, nothing grows. The earth remains barren, save for Mama Adwo's plot, which continues to yield enough to feed everyone. The people ask Mama Adwo, how her garden flourishes when all other attempts fail. She replies, "I water these plants with prayer, it is God who brings the increase." Her words strengthen the faith of many, renewing their hope. As the underground community continued to thrive and worship, strange occurrences began to unfold that no one could explain. It started with subtle things, flickering lights in the tunnels and mysterious footprints near the entrances. The elders dismissed it as paranoia or tricks of the mind, but young Joshua couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched.